Well, my father was a fairly profane individual, and when I was a child, I said a naughty word accidentally. It wasn't even I really wanted to say the naughty word, and I tried not to, but I did. I literally went to say another word, and like a bad word came out because I fumbled my words, and he was oddly very proud of me, which was a weird moment.
You are very active on Twitter, and
that's a way to say I have a problem, isn't it? Is this my intervention? The goal for me is just to try to be the best version of myself online as possible.
Right.
And sort of always use that as my governing principle. Like, is this the best face like put forward or the worst?
Do you feel like it's getting better, or do you sometimes feel like it's getting worse?
Well, it's getting better, which makes it worse. It sounds weird. I have put it where when the dinosaurs saw the meteor coming, they got louder and squawkier and barked at it and moved their little tiny T-Rex arms. They're just dealing with a big shift.
Right.
A big political narrative, social shift that they're not really prepared to deal with, and so they're a little mad about it.
I started this gangster shit. And this the motherfucking thanks I get. Hello. I started this gangster shit. And this the motherfucking thanks I get. Hello.
Yes, it's Comic Artist Pro Secrets. You're listening to Ethan Van Sciver, 25-year veteran in the comic book industry, illustrator of future Canadian Prime Minister Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, creator of the biggest crowdfunded comic book of all time called Cyberfrog Blood Honey. Would you like to support this channel and buy a little Cyberfrog miniature figurine? There's a link below in the description. Thank you very much. I'm a great big Star Wars fan as well. A lot of people are, and that's why there's some reaction to the news yesterday that this man, Chuck Wendig, has been fired from Marvel Comics. He was supposed to write a couple of Darth Vader comic books. Those will not be written by Chuck Wendig. And he had a future Star Wars project. But the reason why we know that this was never going to happen is because Mike Zero never reported on it, and he's been to the future of Star Wars. So he was probably perhaps always going to be fired from this book. Even still, this is disappointing for him, and people are questioning why. Chuck Wendig has his own theories as to why now. As time goes on, Chuck is kind of coloring quite a picture. He's painting quite a picture for his fans and supporters about why he was asked to leave. So yesterday, of course, if you missed it, Chuck Wendig was fired. This is the reason why Chuck was actually fired. Okay, this series of tweets. I think it was the last straw, and you can read these with me. They will tell you to smile, that we need to get back to business. He's referring to Justice Kavanaugh, by the way. This rubbed him the wrong way, evidently. But we got to heal the rift and blah, blah, blah. But that's the desire of a savvy bully who wants you to stop crying after he hit you, who wants you to not fight back. But you can cry, and you can fight back. Chuck Wendig can cry, and he can't. Chuck Wendig can cry. Go ahead, fight back, Chuck. See how it goes. Now, here's what he says here. This is the meaningful part here. They can eat, all of them. They can eat a boot covered in. Okay, 809 people like this. Now look at this. Winter is coming, you callous necks, you prolapsed souls, you grotesque monsters, you racists and rapists and wretched abusers, you vengeful petty horrors. Man, if only his Star Wars books, if only his writing on Star Wars was as colorful as this. But, it takes, I don't know, some things get people more fired up than others. And Chuck Wendig says, side note, some will tell you to be civil because our rage and scorn will fuel the other side. But that double standard in both of its ears. And then, of course, later on. So here's the thing that happened. SJWs and NPCs all talk like 14-year-old girls. This is a grown man. And he's saying, so, here's the thing that happened. I mean, really think about that. That is the state of social justice warriors. All these soy boys, they all talk like this, and then they don't want to be called. I don't know what to tell you. You talk like something from Disney XD. I just got fired from Marvel. taken off issues 4 and 5 of Shadow of Vader, and taken off an as yet unannounced Star Wars book. This might be a long thread, so apologies in advance. It is going to be a long thread. He goes on and on and on. And then, of course, here we have the reason right here. Now, this he actually admits to the reason why Marvel gave him for his firing early on in the thread, and then he changes it as he goes. Today I got the call. I'm fired because of the negativity, and vulgarity, okay, that my tweets bring. That's interesting. That's an interesting swing around there, that his tweets bring. So his tweets aren't negative or vulgar. It's just that people respond to them with negativity and vulgarity. Fascinating. Again, this is a great look into the programming of an NPC. This is how they operate. And they all do this. Seriously, that's what Mark Panici, the editor, said. It was too much politics, too much vulgarity, too much negativity on my part. Interesting. All right, so this is, he's blaming other people here, but then he comes around and he says that Mark is actually pointing the finger of scorn at Chuck Wendig himself. And then he comes down here with this punchline. Basically, I was not civil. No, you weren't. You were what's known as what most people call an a-hole. So we go down here. And this, of course, is more of his crazy rant, if you want to see that. Yeah, I mean, this is just typical of Chuck. Typical. So now, after having read that, you can make up your own mind as to whether or not Chuck Wendig should or should not be fired from Marvel Comics, whether or not Chuck Wendig is considered a liability for Marvel and for Disney, Lucasfilm by extension. I think most people would say that guy's got to either be quiet and keep it to himself, or yeah, he's got to go. I mean, that, you know, with not writing Star Wars comes incredible freedom, and you know, in other words, the reverse of the Spider-Man. With no power comes no responsibility. So depower Chuck Wendig so that he can do whatever he wants. I think that's the best. But here's Joe Hill. This is Stephen King's son. He's a writer, and he is the author of The Fireman, Strange Weather, and others. Now, Joe Hill, you know, immediately comes to the rescue of Chuck Wendig. Why? Why would this dignified man with Paul is dead haircut come to the rescue of Chuck Wendig? Why? Because he is a fellow NPC, social justice warrior, and he has been installed in a place of power and influence, writing Star Wars, and it's important that he, as an NPC SJW, keep his place of influence. It's important that he be allowed, because he's a crazy person, and basically he's been dragged away from the microphone and the megaphone, and this is dangerous. It sets a dangerous precedent for other NPCs who wish to use their power, their places of influence and authority, to also spout gibberish, hateful, far left-wing gibberish, and so they're all going to respond, and this is crazy. It's going to be fun to watch this happen. Let's see. Here's Joe Hill. Hey, Marvel, Walt Disney, you want to work with creators who have vision and imagination? Better accept they may also express themselves politically or impolitically. When the trolls persuade you to fire James Gunn, or Chuck Wendig, they lose, you lose, and your audience loses. Well, that's fascinating, Joe. So basically, people should not have to behave themselves. If you're a social justice warrior, you don't need to behave yourself. By the way, does this same thing apply to right-wingers? Does this apply to people who have right-of-center views? Are they allowed to just go off and curse at people and call people names? Are they allowed to? Is that okay? Or would you actually support their firing in that case? And here we go. Some smart guy once said it's the story, not the storyteller. Just about everyone in publishing ought to have that tacked up on their desk. Vast numbers of artists say do dumb shit and walk around with their flies down, but audiences mostly only care about the work. Well, the work was bad too, Joe, so good news. Out there in your local indie bookstore, a woman is buying a YA novel for her daughter with no knowledge of or interest in that writer's failure to please one political group or another. In the comic shop, someone picked Wendig up without the slightest interest in his tweets. Well, unfortunately, Joe, social media is becoming more and more important. It's no longer the year 1989. Social media does exist. It does influence people. Word gets out. and it does cause immeasurable harm to the brand. I would invite Joe, you to think about this again and to realize that perhaps Chuck Wendig, who is inclined to say crazy, hateful things, not just political things, but hateful things, should probably not be around Disney or Star Wars or any of these brands that don't wish to be associated with that kind of crazy hatefulness. He could do his own thing, and I'm sure he can. He's a creative person. And we move on to this person right here. Fabulous. Let's see. Thorn in your side, salve in your wound, the seed of a new and stronger tree, writer, soother, agitator, and then, well, okay. I have no opinion, Justin. I'm not going to judge you one way or the other. But I will comment on your words. If the creative climate at Marvel is horrendously unsafe and spineless for straight, white, able cis men like Chuck Wendig, oh my God, then that means their willingness to defend any creator who isn't those things is already even lower than we thought. And we already thought it was non-existent. Wow, he got 320 likes for that gibberish. Yeah, that's right. So Chuck Wendig is entirely, well, he's just a straight white cis male. And they won't even defend his rights. Why, if a straight white cis male isn't allowed to say hateful, crazy gibberish, then what about a disabled, transgendered, I don't know, what else is there? A person of color. Then obviously they're not going to be allowed to say crazy, hateful gibberish either then. That's not fair, is it? But this is the bellwether right here. This is the whole thing. Marvel needs to stand up for the hateful gibberish of at least straight, white, able cis men like Chuck Wendig. Chuck Wendig should be tolerated. And if Chuck Wendig is allowed to say the worst, most hateful, disgusting, profane garbage on Twitter, then we all will be able to say the most profane, hateful, ugly, mean, cruel, mean-spirited, evil gibberish on Twitter too, and that would be a better world. It would be a better world, wouldn't it? Let's see what else he has to say. Meanwhile, the guy with the meanest, harassment-flooded Twitter feed in comics is writing Spider-Man. Also was writing Spider-Man. Who's that? Like actual belligerent people get away with this so often that you're not sure which Spider-Man writer I mean. That's the problem. I don't know who you mean either, but I do want to know. That's pretty funny. Okay, let's keep going. Thank you. More NPCs here. Oh, dear God. Aileen is a witch. This is who we're dealing with right now. She responds with just, this is shit. Well, I don't, that might be your opinion. I'm not sure what you have to say past that. I don't think it is. I think it's satisfactory. I think it's justice. Here we have another person, another individual, perfectly normal, perfectly sane. He is, tech writing, social copywriting, blue check mark. Everyone's impressed with blue check marks. I have one. Yeah, all right, so let's see. Mike Jennings. So, Marvel has fired Chuck Wendig because he didn't give in to endless harassment from Comicsgate garbage humans who aren't even real fans anyway. He wasn't polite to them because those people do not deserve politeness. Marvel fired him because he didn't back down. Cowards! Well, I think we all made fun of Chuck Wendig. We didn't ask him to give in to us. Indeed, I looked forward to Chuck Wendig's gibberish and hatefulness and stupidity every single day. I thought it was funny. Chuck Wendig blocked me a long time ago, even though I didn't know who he was until somebody pointed him out to me. And that's not why he was fired. He didn't get fired because he didn't back down. Again, as he will tell you, he was fired because he was endlessly negative and he used a lot of vulgarity and profanity in his social media. So is that cowardly of Marvel, or is that actually adult? Did Marvel make an adult decision here? I don't know. But you're watching the outline. Again, look at the broad outline of crazy people. Social justice warriors, again, non-playable characters. They all say the same things. There is not one fact in this tweet. There's not one fact. It is all lies. Incredible. Let's see another person here. Max Gladstone. He is also an author, I guess. And of course, he puts his pronouns in there. I would have assumed, but maybe that's the problem. I would have assumed. All right. So what does he have to say about all this? Chuck Wendig is a damn good egg, and he was just fired from a Marvel book because if I'm reading this correctly, he refused to bow to a protracted harassment campaign. Craven decision on Marvel's front. Well, if that protracted harassment campaign was just American politics and Kavanaugh, being appointed and confirmed to the Supreme Court, then yeah, he refused to back down to that. That was indeed his crazy rant was fueled by that one singular event and nothing else. But I'll show you what he's talking about, because Chuck actually spins this in a very interesting way. Max Gladstone continues, I'm angry that Marvel or Chuck's editor or whoever would make this wrong-headed decision. Mayfly judgment. I'd call it short-sighted, but that would be an insult to short-sighted people. Why? Feel free to insult short-sighted people, Max. They don't see ahead very far. Yeah. Go ahead, bust on the nearsighted. Max Gladstone. I think there's a lot of call to be angry right now. Oh, good. Well, then you'll all get fired. I agree. All of you get angry and do the same thing Chuck did, please. God, especially if people have organized around saying shit about you. I edited the wrong word. That'll happen. Vile about you on the internet for 3 years. Anger can be a mature reaction to a certain sort of mess and the foundation of good work. God, I'm so happy lately. I really enjoy this. This is fantastic. Max Gladstone, there's a lot more I want to say here about the place of adult anger in politics and in public life. Its strength, its limits, and our own. But I have work to do for now, so maybe later. Chuck doesn't have work to do now, interestingly enough. That's what we're talking about here. What are you bragging? Are you humble bragging to Chuck Wendig? You have work to do? Chuck doesn't have any work to do. He was just fired, Max. Take care of yourselves. Work for the liberation of all sentient beings. What about droids, you bigot? What about droids? Yeah, well, listen. All right, here we go. Oh, God, here's another one. Carly Public Speaking Veloci. Oh, that's a joke because this is public speaking is the scariest thing and it's Halloween. Get it? People are afraid. So she's editing Mobile Nations by Day. Oh, look at this. Writer for Polygon, Vice, Waypoint, Sci-Fi Wire. Garbage tier. I mean, that is all garbage. Let's check out what she has to say. Replying to Chuck Wendig, you're not saying anything that's wrong, so I'm sorry you lost a job because of it. Yeah, well, eat a covered boot. Eat a boot covered in poo-poo is wrong. It's a wrong thing. I don't know. Is that all right? Is that normal? Is that healthy? Is that sane? No. Well, we disagree. We're going to agree to disagree. Here's another person with a cartoon character, blue check mark, even though you've never heard of them. This person is a connoisseur of airplane food. Let's find out what they have to say. What is this up here? We're firing you because you were mean to assholes is familiar, and now it's happening to Chuck. And yeah, you bet I'll die mad about it. Well, the sooner the better. Let's see what Katie Mack says. Chuck Wendig, it's such a ridiculous and unfair fight. They can make 1 million anonymous accounts. They have nothing to lose. Responding at all is a risk. Even just existing is a risk. The bullies have better weapons at their disposal. Easier to burn something down than build it. What are you talking about? He sat there and... Okay. All right, I'm not going to comment on somebody who understands airplane food better than me. I will never understand airplane food. I never will. So this connoisseur is going to be left alone by me. David W. Brown, another articulate human being. What is this? He writes a book, or he's writing a book. Yeah, I like that. I like when they draw out the U's. This is something that Patton Oswalt did. Yeah. Well, all right. That's fine. You're allowed to feel that way if you want. I'd be sad too. Whatever. And then again, Andrew Lasowski from Mozilla. Let's see what this person has to say. I'm so sorry. Your moral strength. Chuck Wendig's moral strength has always been at the core of what makes your writing so good. Yeah. This is a strange and scary time. It is. It is. You're not allowed to be a hateful buffoon on the internet, as it turns out. Yeah, there are consequences for it. It is strange and scary. There are much worse. They are the much worse for losing you. Not really. And I'm excited to see what you create next. Darn it, me too. I am too, Lasowski and Chuck Wendig. I can't wait to see what kind of crisis for your next employer that you create next. It should be fun. That is why Comic Artist Pro Secrets just passed 80,000 subscribers, because nobody can wait. Everyone's excited about it. People are excited about seeing the mess that Chuck Wendig creates next. Here's oh God, Lord help me, senior writer for Vanity Fair. They're everywhere. Wow, this Chuck Wendig news hits like ice water in my veins. I made a resolution at the beginning of the year not to engage in fights on this or really any platform, and for the most part, I've stuck to that, and it's been really good for me and highlighted how much time I was spending chasing trolls and idiots. But next tweet, even though I've chosen to try to mute them and ignore and build up calluses against the truly disgusting harassment I've received for years, no one should be punished for defending themselves in this climate. Defending himself, really. Just quietly swallow abuse? Where is that in the social contract? Way less than many, and I can't even fathom what they deal with. Yeah, it is hard. It's very hard. So anyway, this is Chuck defending himself. This is Chuck, and this is why he's a good writer. This is Chuck's typical behavior on social media, where all he's doing is speaking the truth to all the trolls who are attacking him all the time, and he didn't deserve to lose his job, and Marvel was cowardly for not letting him continue. Let's have a look at this real quick. Trump. But he's just an ugly fake gold mask that we put on this thing. Hold on, let me do my soy boy voice. Fuck all the GOP. Fuck that blubbering, bristling frat boy judge. Fuck McConnell, Ryan, Grassley, Collins, every last one of them. Fuck them for how they've shamed victims and helped dismantle democracy. Who was it that said, not many people see this. There are some people who... 1,700 people at least like this. 430 people retweeted it. Other people, I'm sure, saw it, retweeted that. Chuck Wendig's name's associated with all of this. What is, by this, 1,700, what is 1,700? What kind of percentage of that is the number of people who, are actually buying Star Wars comics? It's a healthy percentage. It's a healthy number. All right, so let's continue. They will tell you to smile, that we need to get back to business, that we got to heal the rift, and blah, blah, blah. That's the desire of a savvy bully. Again, all of this is just about losing an election. This is about losing an election, and this is about a Supreme Court justice being appointed and sustained to the Supreme Court. And this is his response to that. This isn't about bullying. This is about what he sees on MSNBC at night. Winter is coming. Winter has come, Chuck. I'm sorry. This is you shivering. All right. This is basically why Chuck Wendig was finally let go. And he was allowed to continue for a long time. He was allowed to continue with this vulgarity. He was allowed to continue. Until finally Marvel said, I can't take it anymore. Now, just to underscore this, here's Chuck lying about why he was fired. Okay, this is Chuck actually gaslighting his own fans. To rewind a little bit, when Star Wars Aftermath came out, I assume most know, but maybe you don't. I put some elements in there, gay characters, that were not received well by a certain subset of fandom. That resulted, by the way, 1,200 people received this bit of gaslighting. That resulted in negative review campaign found across various Facebook groups and other worse places on the internet that began mounting the very minute the book dropped online. 900 people received that gaslighting. Well, not just received it, by the way. This number is just people who went, oh yeah, I like that. But so many more people actually saw this this bit of dishonesty. All right, so he was harassed for putting gay people in the books, and he's trying to explain to you and make you believe that the reason why he was let go from Marvel Comics is at long last because he put gay people in his comics, because he invented LGBT characters, and that is why he has convinced, that is the path that he has gone down, to convince weirdos, non-playable characters, and social justice warriors to fight for his job. But, of course, that is a lie, and a terrible disservice to the people who hired him, who employed him, and who trusted him to represent Star Wars and Marvel and Lucasfilm for so many years. The minute that he got a chance, the minute he was let go for just cause, for acting like a baboon on social media, he immediately stabbed them in the back. It does not pay to hire social justice warriors. It does not pay to hire NPCs. Look at the way Chelsea Kane behaved when Marvel had to let her go for good reason. And now look at Chuck Wendig. The truth is, Chuck Wendig was fired because he was vulgar, he was obscene, he was rude, he was political, and he was difficult on social media, and he would not take warning. Basically, Chuck Wendig was fired for not being civil, and that's nothing for an adult to be proud of. Join the fandom menace and execute your own Order 66 with our incredible line of t-shirts, Soylo, a Soy Wars story, Tico, a Soy Wars story, and our brand new smoking hot Soy Wars Plan 9. Make a statement today. This is the only trilogy you'll ever need. The link is below in the description. Hey, want to follow me on Twitter? Okay, cool. I'm at Ethan Van Sciver. Talk to you there. If you enjoyed this video and want to become part of this community, subscribe to this channel by clicking the Laughing Man face logo right on your screen. Ring the bell for notifications as well. You'll never miss a live chat. And stay tuned, another video by Comic Artist Pro Secrets is coming right up.